It's kind of late, but we're going to jump right into this. This is a video that many people have asked about, and I thought that now would be a good time to do it, as I have a number of these cameras I need to work on, and I might as well. So this is the, look at that, precision, boom, 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 boom. ME Super teardown video. So I've already removed the top, and I don't really feel like I need to go over that because it's pretty easy, but this is the top that sits on it. It's really straightforward. I've done it multiple times, and at the end of this video I'll probably do a portion where I'm putting this all back together, at which point you can view that as reference and then do a little like, do everything I'm doing but in opposite, and that's how you put it back together. So that's cool. I'm going to take the bottom off now because, as I mentioned, I'm going to take the mirror box out. And I actually don't think I mentioned that, but I am taking the mirror box out of this camera because it's being difficult. It is giving me some problems for the last little bit here with inconsistent performance, i.e. the infinite... That was wild. The infinite wind is kicking up every now and again, and yeah, that's obviously not good. So I'm just going to take the mirror box out so I can address the linkage from the shutter advance system to the mirror box charging mechanism and address that more head on, add lubrication as necessary, clean it up, and make sure that it works in totality. Remove that. I'm thinking about it. Charge that. Okay, cool. So now here we are. We got the bottom removed. You don't necessarily have to take the linkage out like I did. I just prefer to do that because it makes it easier. I'm also going to remove that, and that will free these up, which will be important in the future. You'll see why. Next up, you're thinking, what do we do? I mean, we can just do this very simply. Remove this screw right here with the brass holder piece, and then there is this screw right here. There are two small brass washers that sit underneath there. They will likely reveal themselves once I remove the mirror box. We are now going to remove the leatherette, which is pretty easy because Pentax has really good leatherette skins and good adhesive, so you shouldn't need to reapply adhesive, I guess. This part's a little bit trickier because there's the self timer, so I'll show you kind of what I usually do, which is initiate the self timer and then do that. So initiating it allows you to get the top portion down, and then it will just kind of yoink off that way. There is a little break there, but I mean, no one's gonna ever notice that. No one's gonna know. Then there are the 4 screws in the front here. You can take those off now if you so choose. I do, so I will. Sometimes these are a little bit more impacted, so you might want to use a bit of a bigger screwdriver for more torque. I think this should go without saying, but don't do this. Like, just don't. If your camera is not working, this is probably not going to be the answer to your problems. It will likely be the cause to more problems. So bear that in mind. All right, so now look at that. There's a lot of give. Those screws are done. These screws are done. So look, we can take it apart now, right? No, you can't. There are some issues. So I've talked about this before in a previous video where I think I came across a bit of a new method, and that was a very long time ago. I will be honest with you, so I'm not entirely sure I remember what I was talking about. I was probably talking out of my ass, as I'm one to do. But if I recall properly, well, I don't recall properly, I just did this the other day. There is an issue with this camera, and that would be right here. This is my main hesitation with taking these apart, is this front PCB and the main switch mechanism that sits right here. There are a multitude of wires that just kind of connect one to the other, and they're very short wires. It makes it a problem to get in there because you have very little give. So I've kind of worked on multiple different ways to access that, and to no avail, really. But what I usually start with is removing this, which is that is the screw that holds the LED housing in place for the light meter. I'm also gonna just detach this so I don't have to worry about it. This is just the wire from there to there. It shouldn't really matter too much, but sometimes it's just in the way. There are 2 power wires that we will also detach briefly. And once the LED housing is loosened up, it should be fairly easy to kind of yoink the LED housing out. Should be easy. Okay, it's not going to be easy. Okay, well that's fine then. Okay, well that already got disconnected, so I guess that's kind of a moot point. Well, man, that's kind of shitty, to be honest. I do not want that to happen. Okay, we'll just unsolder it then. I thought I was gonna like find a clever way to do this, but I don't think that's gonna happen, so that's okay. I'm talking to myself a little bit more than I like to, I apologize, but let me walk you through kind of what happened. So my thought was that I would attempt to reach a more agreeable position in which to unsolder everything. However, one of the main points of contact kind of became detached immediately. So that's going to be a little bit tricky to unsolder, or to work with. Let me see one second. There we go. That should be good enough. Okay, so I'll walk you through kind of what I did there. It's just hard to do in the moment because I'm processing all the stuff that's going on, which is why I probably should write scripts for these things. Well, you look at there. This was one of the washers I was telling you about. It sits right there, and as you can see, it got gummed up in there, so we want to make sure that that's removed. And I think the other one just fell into the camera, so that's cool. So there's this front board here, and then there's this main switch here. And as you can see, there's a bunch of wires that connect here. Primarily these ones. This is like a pink, a uncovered contact. This is the one that got disconnected. This white one and a brown one. And they kind of go along this row here. Memory serves, I believe it is pink, brown, unsoldered or uncovered contact, and then the white one there in that way. Now what I was trying to do was I was trying to remove this. God, that is really stuck in there. I've never ever seen that before, where it is like glued on. I was trying to remove this because then I can lift this part of the board up and then more easily access here to unsolder. Obviously that didn't work, but oh well. Typically that's what I'd try to do. And then the reason why I wanted to pull the tape off of here on the bottom is to give me a little bit more leeway, as these are the contact points for the power winder. They lead into this board system here, which the ME Super board is kind of plugged in to right there, down at the bottom. So if you ever needed to switch out a ME Super board, you have to kind of loosen this up, and then you can just yoink it out from the side if you remove that. It's kind of cool. So let's talk about the issue that this camera is having, and that would be right here. This is pretty much the main cause of all of your infinite winding issues in the ME Super is located to right here. Now, typically when I say how you fix an ME Super infinite wind is by taking a bit of oil or whatever solvent in there first up here, loosening this up using a screwdriver to free this up, and then putting a drop of oil there. I've done this a few times with this camera and it's still kind of acting up. So that leads me to my second thought, which is that this portion back here, the second connecting point, not this one up here, the second one could potentially be the cause of the problem. Now, this one obviously is harder to get to, so that's why I had to take this whole thing apart. But ultimately, it's for the best because we're making good content, stuff that you can hopefully watch and make sense of. Also, it's worth saying, I mean, look at this already. It's insane. It's moving so much more freely. When I started out doing camera repair, I've talked about this before, but a lot of the stuff that we were doing was very much step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever. So I looked at all of these systems as like a very linear thing. And then if it didn't get fixed within those parameters, I deemed it unfixable. Now, in the years since doing camera repair, since I've started this business and been kind of doing that, my ability to understand these systems in a more like structural sense has improved greatly. So stuff like this makes more sense to me because I'm used to kind of tearing it down at this point and understanding how each system interacts with each other's and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to me, like doing stuff like this, where normally in my old job, I would not dream of. And then now 3 or 4 years later, it's like just second nature to me to do something like this. So that's pretty much it. That is the cause of the issue. And the other reason that I removed the linkage here is just because getting this body in and out will be a lot easier. Now, in terms of soldering this back together, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. But what I'll probably do is something like tape this up just so it's out of the way, hold the white wire into place, hold all the other wires into place, pull these away, and then kind of put them together. Now, it's important to also mention that I didn't necessarily need to unsolder this gray wire here, as it is staying connected to there. There should be enough give, all this stuff. But for me personally, I just prefer to kind of get it out of the way. Now, the other thing I would like to mention is, why did I disconnect this? Initially, what I would do at times was I would take this main switch mechanism off as well, which the main switch, as far as I understand it, I think actually the main switch is this board here, but there is, I don't know, it's been a while since I've read the ME Super repair manual, which I know it's just devastating, but it was my understanding initially that the main switch was the system that sits up here underneath the power switch mechanism, and that regulates the power from this wire here, the uncovered contact, and the pink wire as well, which I believe serves as a grounding wire. I'm not entirely sure on that. But anyway, disconnecting the switch mechanism gave me less things to worry about necessarily. Then it was only these 2 wires here, and then the gray wire, which are connected to the board to there. However, it really doesn't matter all that much. Like it's, oh, and then also the blue wire, which sits there. I've realized that it's kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other, and as I'm looking at this board is kind of gross, so I might want to clean that up quickly. Yeah, it's pretty much, as far as I can understand it, there's not really a great method in which to do this. It's just kind of a crummy thing to take apart to begin with. You just got to make the most of it. that would be the shutter firing, which we can talk about that briefly. So to charge the shutter, it's this little lever down there. So just pull that, and that charges there. And then to fire it, it is this little toggle right there. So just lift up on that, or lift down on that, I should say. And there you go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I could talk more about this, but I don't really know what else to say. So if you have any specific questions as to what you're seeing here, please comment them down below. I'm going to leave this sitting overnight to make sure that all the mechanisms still work and are moving properly tomorrow morning before I put it back together, because there's nothing worse than taking something apart, putting it back together, than taking it apart again to fix the same thing. So I'm trying to avoid that. But I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it as always. I tried to make this a little bit shorter, but this is kind of a complicated thing, so I hope it made sense. But if it didn't, comment any questions you have down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Thank you again. Catch you on the next one.